welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and today I'm going to be talking about what I'll be reading for Summerween. So Summerween is a new readathon challenge that I am super excited for. It was created by Gabby from Gabby Reads and Olivia from Oliviareadsalatte. I'll make sure to link all their information down below and their announcement videos so you can get all the details you need to know about what Summerween is. But basically, it is a Halloween, like spooky, fall-themed readathon going on the last week of August. So it runs from August 24th to August 30th, which encapsulates my birthday week because my birthday is on the 28th. So this is like the perfect timing. It's two of my favorite creators, my favorite types of books, my favorite time of the year. It's just going to be a great time. So I am going to be sharing what I'll be reading for all the challenges during that week, and also just a couple recommendations in case you're looking for some books to fill up some of these challenges, because I read a ton of thriller and horror, so I have so many books that would fit a lot of these challenges as well that I would love to recommend. So the first challenge is to read a book with a creepy cover. I have so many books that could have filled this for me, but I'm going to go with The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson. This is a new horror book that came out this year, I believe, and I was first attracted to it because of its creepy cover, so this fits this challenge perfectly because that was the main drawing factor for me. So what I believe this story is about is it follows this woman, Miranda, who has grown up in not the best circumstances, and she is like moving drugs for a preacher, I think, and his band of followers, and that band is like declining in its numbers, and so she's just trying to make ends meet. She's also protecting an old witch and a secret child from harm, so that sounds interesting. And then there are dark forces, both human and supernatural, that come to work and things get crazy. And I am just super excited for it. It looks super creepy and it seems like it will be super natural-ish, and so that's usually what I like, is when things aren't 100% supernatural, but like I don't want to say that because what if it ends up being that? I don't know, but basically I'm just excited for it. Some recommendations that I would give you for books with creepy covers that I have already read and loved include The Shadows by Alex North. So I just read this actually this month. It just came out recently, and this is the second book from Alex North. The first one, The Whisper Man, is also a really good book that I would recommend that also has a creepy cover. They're kind of similar. So this story is about a town where there has been these crimes committed by this guy they call the Whisper Man. He used to come and like whisper in kids' windows and steal them and do bad things, and he ended up going to jail, and he's still in jail, but it's like 30 years later and these crimes are like happening again seemingly, so they're trying to figure out what's going on. And you follow multiple perspectives in this book. You're close with the family that's just moved to town, with the son, and then with the detective who is working on the case. The Shadows is kind of similar to Slender Man idea. So it is about the small town where there is this legend that goes on, and like the kids have carried this legend throughout. There's also like forum boards and stuff where people talk about it, but basically there's this guy who was in a group of friends when he was younger, and one of the kids, Charlie, was telling them about the Shadow Man and like convincing them all that they could do lucid dreaming together and like join each other in their dreams and end up going off to be in this like eternal dream world. And then someone ends up getting killed, and then it's like 30 years later, and one of the guys has come back to this hometown and is trying to like live with the repercussions of that, and also kind of figure out what's going on where kids are still getting killed and still bringing up this guy's name. So both of these are super good. I don't know if I would really recommend one over the other. I really enjoyed them both, and they're both pretty creepy looking, so I think either of them would fit this challenge well. Another one I would recommend is Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. I just read this one this month as well. It is very short, so it is very conducive to a readathon, and I think we can all agree that cover is pretty freaky looking. And this story is about a girl and her dad who are not really humans, and their job in the community is to heal people. And so people come to them if they're sick, or if their back hurts, or if they're pregnant, and they're just kind of the community healers. They literally like cut people's bodies open to see what's wrong with them, sort of, and like reach in and do things with their hands, and then they bury them in the ground for a time to like let them heal. And the main girl is visited one day by this guy, Samson, and then she's really interested in him and strikes up a relationship with him, and then from there things get weird. That's pretty much my description for all these books, is there's the synopsis and then things get weird. Definitely an interesting story. It's fairly short and super quick to read, and it wasn't a 5-star for me, but it is just like really out there and I think would fit to the vibe of this readathon nicely. The second prompt is to read a book that has paranormal or supernatural aspects to it, so I'm just going to double up with this prompt and read The Boatman's Daughter for this one as well, since it has some type of supernatural thing going on, and I'm trying to be easy on myself on these readathons because we saw what happened during the reading rush to me. But some recommendations I have for you for some supernatural paranormal books. I don't read a ton, to be honest, of supernatural paranormal-y things, but something that I read a lot of is books where there's like presumed to be something supernatural going on, and a book that I would recommend that is like that would be The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. So this is about a nanny who goes to visit these children and take care of them in their home, and then the house might be haunted basically, and the kids are weird things are happening all around the property, and it's by my queen Ruth Ware, so I have to recommend it. Also recommend The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. So this was more of a 3-star book for me, honestly, not gonna lie, but it is a book that I can see people really enjoying, and I know a ton of people did really enjoy it when they read this. So this is a story about a girl whose aunt went missing a long time ago. When her aunt went missing, she worked at this place called the Sundown Motel. It's just like this really rundown motel, and the girl, the niece, is like trying to figure out what happened to her aunt, and so she decides to go back to this town and start working at the Sundown Motel and kind of retrace her aunt's footsteps and see what might have happened to her. So the premise alone I really enjoyed, and I did like most of the things about this book. My only real complaint was that the lives were really similar between the storylines. You're flipping back and forth between the niece and the aunt, and they have very similar experiences that go on, so it was a little difficult to like distinguish the characters, and that kind of annoys me sometimes. But overall, it was a really enjoyable read to get through really quickly, and if you're into things that are definitely paranormal, then I would recommend you check this one out. The third prompt is to read a book with a haunted house. So for that, I will be reading Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I don't know if this is like conventionally what you would think for a haunted house story, but if you read the description of this, it is kind of pretty much technically fits in this category, and it's really small, so it really seems like a good book for a readathon. And I just really wanted to read more of Stephen Graham Jones, so it all is working out nicely. But what this story is about is a 15-year-old who thinks he sees a person in full Blackfeet regalia step through a doorway instead of the people who could be there, his mother or his brother. The figure reminds him of his long-gone father, who died mysteriously before his family left the reservation. When he follows it, he discovers his house is bigger and deeper than he knew. So he's seeing like the ghost of his dad in his house. So that's like a haunted house story, right? So I'm really excited for this one. It is by a Native American author, and I've just been wanting to explore more Indigenous stories because that is a category I am just not reading enough of at all. So I was super excited to find this one and happy that I could fit it into one of the prompts of this week. For other haunted house book recommendations that you could check out, you could also fit The Turn of the Key into this prompt because, like I said, there's like spooky things going on in the house. You could also do Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is his new book that came out this year, and it is kind of similar to The Haunting of Hill House. If you enjoyed that show, then I think you would enjoy this book. It is a story about a girl who like grew up in this haunted house. She only lived there for like 20 days with her family, and then they ended up running away because it was just so haunted and scary apparently, and that became a super famous thing, and the dad wrote a book about the experience, and so now this house is like a legend, and we're following her many years later. Her father has died. She's going back to the house to clean it up and get ready to resell it, and then creepy things start happening. So definitely a fun one to read. Another new book you could check out is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Morena Garcia. This is a story about a girl. It is set in the 1950s, and she receives a letter from her cousin, and she is saying that her husband is poisoning her, and she doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't feel safe, and she's scared. And so the girl goes to visit her cousin, and when she gets there, the family's all like, no, she just had tuberculosis and was like hallucinating. She's fine. And the cousin is kind of acting fine, but you know things aren't fine, and you're trying to figure out what is going on in that house. So all of these would be good fits for haunted house stories. One more haunted house story, The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn, is a really, really small novella that is all about a haunted house, and I don't want to tell you anything about it because it's so short and everything is like really surprising in here. So this is super duper fun. I had a ton of stuff on reading it. It's really twisty for it to be like 60 pages. A lot happens, so I would definitely recommend this one as well. The fourth prompt is to read a book in the dark, so you can really read whatever you want and just kind of double up your prompts, but I chose this book because it was one I just wanted to read during this month, and I just put it in this week anyway. So I will be reading The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. So this is another one of those stories where something happened a long time ago and now in the present day they're like connecting somehow, and that is just a trope I really enjoy, so no surprise that many of these on the list have been like that. But this is a story about in 1908, there was this mysterious disappearance of this woman who was found dead in the field behind her house just a couple months after the tragic death of her daughter. And now in the present day, there's a 19-year-old who is living in this farmhouse with her mother and her younger sister. And then one morning, the mother has vanished. And so then the girl has to search for clues and figure out what's going on and get sucked into this historical mystery. And it just sounds super interesting. And I'll just read it in the dark during this week. I can kind of give you any recommendations for something you can read in the dark, but I will just kind of go over what I've already recommended that I think would be nice. This is a good one to read in the dark because it is glow in the dark, so that is just kind of cool. The edges has a really nice like gothic wallpaper appearance to it that you can see when it glows in the dark, so that's super neat. And it also is just really creepy, so it just enhances the experience to read this in the dark particular. Also, The Shadows by Alex North, or The Whisper Man by Alex North. I remember this one was a while ago because I read this at the beginning of this year, I think, but this one I just read like this month. So both of these I ended up reading them primarily at night, like before I went to bed, and they both genuinely creeped me out and gave me nightmares. So I would definitely recommend that either of these be read at dark, and it just will really freak you out if that's what you're into. Also, The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I read this one pretty recently, and it is also one that just really creeped me out, so I think this one would be fun to read in the dark. It is about a family that is in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, kind of. They're just vacationing, and then these intruders come to their house and say that the world's gonna end if they don't listen to them and follow specific instructions. So super weird and super creepy and fun to read in the dark. And the last prompt is to read a book recommended by the hosts, so that would be from either Gabby or Olivia, and they each kind of mentioned some books in their announcement videos that they recommended then, but also you can kind of pick anything that they've ever recommended basically. So I'm gonna choose to read Final Girls by Riley Sager. This is one that they both love. They both talk about Riley Sager a lot, and I also enjoy Riley Sager's writing, but I've only read Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark so far, so I just want to go back to the beginning. This was the first book he came out with, so I'm super excited to read it. It seems to have like slasher, scream, Halloween vibes, and that just seems perfect for this week, so super excited to get through this one. So these are all the books I'm going to be reading for Summerween. They actually have a really nice matching aesthetic of like red and white, so that was not even on purpose, but that is going to be nice for photos. At least it'll look super creepy, and I am so looking forward to it. I can't wait to spend the whole week just reading super creepy things, and I really think I'm going to enjoy each of these books. If there's any that I wouldn't enjoy, I would predict that The Winter People might be the one that's like the least favorite, but I have really high hopes for a lot of these, and I'm super excited to dive in. With that said, I will be vlogging for Summerween, but I probably won't do daily vlogs since the reading rush burnt me out of that. But I will most likely be doing one weekly reading vlog, but if it gets super long, then I might do two, since I am reading 4 books and might have to be split up, like part 1 of the week and part 2 of the week. But either way, you can look out for that. As a reminder, it is from August 24th to August 30th, so the last week of August. And like I said, you can go check out the videos from Gabby and Olivia if you want any more information on this. I will leave their links below. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!